That's it. Thanks very much for listening.
All right, folks, I am going to stop sharing my screen. I think come back to main view here. All right, thank you for the presentation, Charlie. I think we can roll right into the Q&A. I have a couple of questions to get us going, some general, some a little more specific, but also, again, because of the technical difficulties here with everybody named Tim Amtram Cashin, I won't be able to call on anybody specifically. So you can either unmute yourself and just speak up, or post questions in the chat. That also works. But so I'll get us going here. And also, yeah, here's Charlie, everyone. He is the presenter and our event leader for the day. But my first question is about being not very well versed in the region's species. Are there species that lay egg masses that are not either an obligate or a facultative species for vernal pools? Or if you see an egg mass out in the wild, is that like, you know, antennas should go up and you should be like, oh, this is a potential vernal pool, I should look for more signs?
An egg mass that's a big blob with lots of eggs in it in New England has to be one of the mole salamanders or a wood frog. I can't really think of anything that you'd confuse with that. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I saw my first ones just the other day. I mean, they're wild looking with the, I mean, they look like galactic, I thought, especially the salamander with the blue cast, like you pointed out. They really look like a star-forming galaxy or something like that. And then more generally, so a vernal pool kind of like deep in the woods, you know, is there, apart from the obvious, you know, like what's the value if it's undisturbed, kind of, is there value in going out to go and certify that pool, or should it be kind of like low priority? And is there long-term value for getting these certified?
Well, you never know it might be in the middle of the woods now, but you never know what's going to happen. I mean, the big tracts of forest are being cut down to put up solar arrays right now, among other things. Could be, I mean, if it's on, even if it's on, you know, state-owned land, there could be logging there, and they're just not aware of the vernal pools. Yeah, it's always worthwhile, I would say.
Sure. And then a couple of questions popping up in the chat. I'll just read them as they come in. When you find a vernal pool, how do you know if it's already been certified or not?
You can, it never hurts to duplicate, but you can look. I mean, what I do is, because I have ArcGIS on my computer, I can download the most recent layer of certified vernal pools from MassGIS. But for people who don't have that, I believe there's an online version that's maybe called Oliver, or the thing called Oliver has maybe been replaced by something else that's similar, where you can browse online.
This is Nellie. I'll just jump in, Charlie, that the MassGIS Oliver has just turned into that, and the MassGIS website is something that you can access online, and you can, in the side panel, you can go and select the layer for like finding vernal pools, both the potential and the certified. I'll let you get into the details of that, but it is available for just general people.
And this is part of our resources that we'll send out afterwards. And it can sound intimidating to talk about like GIS and map layers. It's actually a very user-friendly website that Massachusetts provides, and is pretty easy to navigate yourself. Both for finding previously certified vernal pools and then potential vernal pools. They make it pretty simple for anybody of any technological literacy level to move through it. That'll be included in the resources that I send out.
I want to mention, I think I might have said this in the talk, but so when I just finally got my first smartphone a couple of months ago, so I had never used one to certify a vernal pool, but just last Friday I went for a hike on the Appalachian Trail in the Berkshires, and I saw a vernal pool from the trail, and I walked over to it, and there were 11 spotted salamander egg masses just sitting in the middle. So it took me like 2 minutes to just make a quick video showing the whole extent of the pool and the egg masses. And then I just, said into the recording, like, it's 120 feet long by 30 feet and looks to be about a foot deep. I came home and saw that it wasn't a certified or even a potential vernal pool. So I went on Heritage Hub, and it took me like 5 minutes to just upload all that stuff. And so it's really a pretty quick process if you.
And I guess, so is video evidence even maybe a little bit more convenient than photo evidence sometimes in cases like that? And that's accepted by Massachusetts?
Yeah, I mean, they let you, and I don't know if there's a size limit, but my videos were not small, and it let me upload that. So, and it's good to say, I don't know if you can get the GPS coordinates off of a video. So but I took one still picture, and from that, I mean, not only did when I looked on Google Photos or whatever, it showed it in exactly the right place, but I was able to look at the, in the information on the photo, you can get the coordinates off of that and copy that and put it in Heritage Hub. And I could even see in GIS, I could see the actual, the ortho photos must have been taken in spring, because you could see the water in exactly the place where the coordinates fell. So
cool.
Phones are pretty, they're as good as GPS units these days.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw in the slideshow you had phone ? And parentheses, I guess you were unsure if you didn't have one. But all right, and there's another question here. Sorry if this was explained already. Do vernal pools usually recur every year? If they do not, do they lose their certification status?
So I don't know what it takes for a vernal pool to lose its status. I think that would be a pretty involved process. It would be someone who wanted to do something there contesting it, and then Natural Heritage would probably require multiple surveys to establish that there really isn't one there. But there are definitely most vernal pools are there every year, but there are some, and definitely some certified ones that are in drier years will dry up too fast to actually be functional, like maybe eggs were laid there, but the larvae can't complete their development. It varies a lot from year to year. The year before last, I found some vernal pools in the Berkshires I think it was late July or even early August, and there was plenty of water in them. I went back in May to try to certify them, and they were bone dry. So even though it seems like there's a lot of snow in the winter and there should be, it was a drier spring than the previous spring. So even than the previous summer. So
yeah. And you had said, if I remember correctly, that the fairy shrimp eggs require drying out, and is that why they're maybe not as common, because the vernal pool has to dry out?
That is my impression. Yeah.
Okay. And sorry, so does that mean that it requires drying out just over the seasons, or it requires a year of where the vernal pool isn't active?
It actually, I don't know how long they have to be dry for, but it doesn't have to be. I remember a specific vernal pool that was referred to by the grad student who was studying the marbled salamanders at the time. He called it the spoon because it had this like handle, like long skinny part, and then there was a deeper part, and the deeper part would hold water all year, but the handle of the spoon would dry up, and there were fairy shrimp in that pool, so the eggs must have been drying out in the handle part of the spoon.
All right, cool. So you could have like a partial version. No, the whole thing is, I suppose, but only a piece of it supports the fairy shrimp. Interesting. And another question here about the certification. Do you have a photograph of both the dry and wet state? Do you have to photograph both the dry and wet stage of a vernal pool in order to get it certified?
That is only if you're using the facultative method. So if you're using, if you find any of the obligate species and enough of them, so whatever 5 egg masses, it's presumed that it does dry out. Although there definitely are, I've seen beaver ponds that will have enough egg masses for it to be certifiable, but probably the natural heritage would look at that and say, that looks perennial. So, or I'm not sure what they do in those situations, but you do not have to take pictures of it dry unless you're trying to certify it using only the facultative amphibians.
Okay, all right. And then just a point of clarification, this is one of my own questions. Is it, when vernal pool season is starting, is it the first rainy night that stays above 40 degrees, so it never drops into the 30s, or just the first rainy night that has any temperature above? So it could be like 38 most of the night, but like 43 at the beginning and end of the night or something.
I don't know what the exact cutoff is, but I think it would have to be that above 40 for long enough for the amphibians to notice and start motivating.
Okay, sure.
I think once it dips below, they just kind of slow down and go to sleep.
And
then
then
I'll just offer that there's a vernal pools listserv that I'm on, and one of the big conversations that's been happening there this year is that it appears that amphibians were mobilizing without the rain, because we had kind of this dry bit, like the beginning of April was very dry and we had that really hot weather. And some, especially wood frogs, were just going out and laying eggs without the rain happening.
Yeah,
So,
I've witnessed that several times, like in broad daylight, you'll just see the frogs pouring into the pond because it's just like it's warm enough or it's late enough and they've had it. It's time to get in there.
Yeah.
so it's not like a hard and fast rule, but it's the like indicator that can best lead you to having a big night where you get to see a bunch of amphibians moving.
yeah, that would be awesome. And then how long is the like actually submitting data to, and that is resources that we will provide afterwards, but actually submitting the data and then hearing back, and then maybe even seeing your certified vernal pool on the map of certified vernal pools that Massachusetts creates. Is that a long process? Is there a back and forth, or is it have they streamlined it?
There's not a back and forth. I think if they need more information, like if they don't think you documented it quite well enough, they'll say, they'll let you know. But it could, I mean, I think when it's during the busy vernal pool season, you're not going to hear back right away, but it'll, and I'm not sure. Yeah, it's been a while since I've certified one, so, or documented one, so I can't remember exactly, but it'll probably be several months, I would think, if you submitted it right now. But I think once a year they update the certified vernal pool layer, and so you'd see the dots appearing.
Okay, yeah. Nellie, have you gone through that process at all?
It can take a while. I had one pool where they ended up needing more information for me, from me for documenting it, and I got a notice about that like maybe like 2 months after I submitted the data. So they do, the scientists do tend to be kind of backed up as far as responding. So it can take a while. So it's one of those things of like, get the information in and then you have to be patient.
'Cause I think it's basically just one guy, Jake Kubel, who does all of the certifying, and he's during vernal pool season, he's out in the field as much as he can be, trying to check up on all the rare species. And
Yeah. I certified one last year in the fall, and it only took a week or two, which was,
yeah, so
which is
in the
really,
off
really
season, I would
surprising.
expect it to be much faster.
Yeah, yeah. I had a question. I recently heard about that they had relocated some marble salamanders from the Berkshires to Malden or Medford to the
Huh.
fells. There was an article in the Globe, and I just wondered if you were involved in that, or if you knew how they did it.
No, I haven't heard anything about that, and I don't know why they would do. There's, as far as I know, there's just one pool in the Berkshires where there are known to be marbled salamanders, unless. When I was doing Jefferson salamander surveys 10 years ago or so, I found marbled salamanders in West Stockbridge, and no one had found them in the Berkshires before. So unless someone has found more since then,
Yeah,
I don't know why they'd be moving them to Eastern Mass, but
it seemed like there was something about there were pools in the fells where I guess they had been there at some point, and then they had disappeared, and somebody wanted to reintroduce them.
Huh. Well, that makes sense. But
Yeah.
you're sure it was the Berkshires and not like the Connecticut Valley or something?
No, it was the
Source?
Berkshires. Yeah, definitely was the Berkshires.
Interesting choice.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Yeah.
Kind of assisted migration. I know they're
Yeah.
looking into that with trees and other things, but yeah. I had another question, although now it's escaping me. Oh yeah. So approaching landowners, I know can be kind of tricky. Yeah, either Charlie or Nellie or Pat, if you have any insights on like how to kind of actually ask a landowner, hey, can we put some development restrictions on your property, please? Are there any what's like a good intro just to try and like encourage people to consider allowing you onto their land?
I actually haven't done too much of that. I've been certifying under other circumstances, or like when I did the whole town of Pelham, basically the Conservation Commission took care of getting landowner permission.
Oh,
so
cool.
That's not
That's
something
nice.
I have too much experience with, but some landowners are the ones that I have interacted with. Some are totally excited to the possibility. I mean, they're not planning on doing anything with that area themselves, and they're excited to learn what's there and to have it protected. And others who might have some plans will definitely be more reluctant to let you do anything.
Yeah.
But
I sent out some, we had some flyers that one of the previous land stewards had created about vernal pools. And I created a letter and sent it to some people who it looked like they had potential vernal pools on their properties, and then called them. And I didn't get a whole lot of response, but I did get one person who was interested. And I also, we put your presentation on our town website, Charlie, in Goshen a couple of years ago. And from that, I had some interest from people calling.
yeah, great.
Yeah,
So those are a few ideas.
Yeah, for myself, I have kind of, I have pools that I keep my eye on that I know are on properties that are owned by people that I haven't like, been able to contact them. Sometimes it's because it's undeveloped land and the owner of the property actually lives out of state. So it's like it's kind of like looking at it as a long-term process. And what I've found is that, you know, just like talking to people, if I bump into, you know, people in my community and just mentioning like, hey, you know, it's like vernal pool season, and if you know of anyone, send them my way. And that's been how I've connected up with a number of landowners, you know, and it can be a multi-year process of having conversations with people. You know, one of the things, I actually have a meeting scheduled for next week with some landowners who have vernal pools on their property, and they are close to Hilltown Land Trust property and are very conservation minded, and so they're super excited to have me coming out to take a look at their pools. So I'll be, you know, getting to show them, but a lot of it I think is really like bringing enthusiasm about like, hey, you've got this really special ecosystem on your property. I'd love to share information about it. And these are the ways that we could go about protecting that for the future. There are landowners I've encountered who are of the opinion that like, I'm not going to do anything with it. I don't want the state to be regulating my property. And so then it's kind of turning into a longer term, gentle conversation about, well, what happens when you die, right? You know, like thinking towards the future. So in some ways, it kind of has an intersection with estate planning.
Yeah, that's very funny. Also, it's a great point you bring up, Nellie, about the people you're meeting with next week are adjacent to Hilltown Land Trust land. And it probably is a good idea to, if you have private land that you're interested in getting onto, you could ask a local conservation organization to be a mediator, just like a bigger organization that has more of a presence. They can say they're doing some vernal pool initiative or something like that. And we saw that, think there might be one on your land. So yeah, contacting your local land trust, wherever that is, if it's in the Hilltowns or in the Berkshires or out in Eastern Mass. Probably a good idea too. All right, unless I don't see any other questions in the chat, I feel like I could keep asking a bunch of questions, but I will refrain. Unless anybody else has any other questions, we can wrap things up. We do have a few details to give about tomorrow's event. If you are planning to attend tomorrow's event, for those of you still here, but also just a deep gratitude to Charley for attending and providing us with your expertise, and also to Nellie for chiming in here, and of course to Pat and the trustees for hosting this event. For hosting the technical side of this event, and thanks everybody. But Charley, you don't need to stick around. We're going to do some details about tomorrow's event, but you're of course welcome to. But thank you very much, Charley.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
All right, and so for tomorrow's event, folks, we will be meeting in Plainfield. I think there are enough of us who we're a small enough group where we should all be able to park at the site. It's about 1.2 miles west. I know it's kind of odd directions, about 1.2 miles west of Plainfield Town Center. And we'll be putting up a pretty big tent, an event tent that has Hilltown Land Trust's logo on it. So you should, even if you drive by and miss us the first time, you should be able to see us at least. Nellie, if you have a few details maybe about what to expect, what to wear, what not to wear.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. So again, 116 Plainfield Centers, you're heading out. It's not that far away. There is a red barn as well that is tucked back away from the road, but it's another kind of landmark for you. So for tomorrow's walk, we are expecting that it might be rainy weather, so please dress appropriately. If you are wearing boots, make sure they're waterproof. You know, if you have muck boots or rain boots, go ahead and wear those. I am going to have a boot washing station set up for protecting the critters that are in the vernal pools. One of the things we want to be careful of when working with vernal pools is making sure that if you're going between one vernal pool and another, or if you've been out walking in the woods and then you're going to go visit a vernal pool, but especially between vernal pools or between wetlands, is to just make sure that you wash your boots off so that you're not risking transmitting any sort of viruses that infect amphibians. So we'll do that. And I also just encourage people to not wear any bug repellent or lotion on your hands, because if we're and we want to be careful if we're touching things, but amphibians are very sensitive to things like pesticides or bug repellents or oils. So we want to just make sure that you don't have anything on your hands. And we're gonna get to actually see some of the creatures that were in this wonderful presentation in person, which I am just delighted to share with you. This pool in particular is a pool that when I did the vernal pool plunge training in 2019, we went and visited that with Charley. So that was a really great experience to have his presentation and then actually get to go out in the field with him. So I hope to be able to share some of my knowledge that I've gained through my years of working with vernal pools since 2019. So yeah, looking forward to it.
It's gonna be fun. Yeah, I'll send out just an email communication in the morning as well with these exact details and a few other things as well to the people who did not make the webinar tonight but are coming on the walk tomorrow. Yeah, and then there will be a probably in the next few days, I'll follow up as well with a link to some resources. I know someone had already said in the chat, HLT's website also, although this will all be included in the email, has a web page with a lot of resources on it for vernal pool certification as well. All right, so 4 o'clock tomorrow in Plainfield. See you all there. Should be a good time out regardless of the weather.
Yes.
All right.
Wear
Thanks,
your raincoats and we'll have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming and see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Nellie. Bye.